Welcome back, friends. We are here for another episode of Sit Crooked, Talk Straight. This is a fun episode because I, Katie Myers, am with the lovely
Leanne Jameson.
Ah!
Oh, wait, me.
That's me. You. It's you. I'm with you. I'm with you, but I'm not with you because, and we're never together. I don't think we've maybe recorded one episode together. I am in Breckenridge, Colorado on spring break. And so we have no idea what sound quality is going to be. We have no idea, but we thought, how fun would it be to do an episode where I'm doing a little bit of travel. Leanne is obviously holding down the fort at home in Buffalo, New York, and oddly enough, we're going to be talking about travel.
Yes, we are. We didn't even plan it that way, of course, because many of you know that we don't really plan. So today's episode is actually going to be talking about a time that a journey changed us, right? Like some sort of journey, a trip that changed us. There's so many different ways that you can identify a journey. You know, you have a spiritual journey, you have a physical journey, you have an emotional journey, you have everything in between. But we are actually talking about a time that a journey changed our lives, changed our perspective, changed something about the way that we view things, or internally or externally. I would say all of the trips that change us, I can speak for myself. It's like more of this like internal shift, right? In perspective, soul shift almost, you know?
I love that. And I love, like, we were talking about this before, of like the love of travel. And for me, it really is a soul experience. It's a spiritual experience. And we were joking about like going to like Fiji or going to Iowa or going to like, no matter where you go, because I think there's something like geographically about being in a different space, being in a different geography that just reminds me, I'll speak for myself. It reminds me that I am so, on some levels, I am so small in the grand scheme of like the world, right? Like I am this little teeny tiny microcosm of life and of experiences. But when I go to these different places, I'm just like in awe of like, oh my gosh, this stuff exists because it exists outside of my normal world. And then on the same level, I find that the world is so small. Because we were just talking about Iowa, and it's like, we know people in Iowa. We know people. And actually, I know somebody who's in Fiji right now. The world gets smaller and smaller and smaller, and we play such a big role at times when we choose to show up and allow for these experiences. And so, yeah, I've got a ton of them. I know you've got a ton of them. Travel is a big part of both of our lives. It's April, and I counted how many times I have flown in the last 4 months, and it's 4 times. I've gone on a flight and traveled somewhere where a flight was required 4 times in the last 4 months.
Oh my gosh.
Some of that's because family lives in Michigan and family lives in Florida. Some of that's because we went to St. Martin for Thanksgiving. Some of that's because we are here in Colorado, right? Like there's just all this, but I'm also like struck by the accessibility and opportunity that these experiences can allow us. Because what the one experience I was going to talk about first for me was Sedona 6 years ago. 6 years ago?
Yeah.
And then Sedona 3 months ago. And Sedona's always been a spiritual place for me, but I came back different people both trips. Right? Like there's just this
describe like that difference for you? Like what happens when we go and we open up to these opportunities, right? And again, right, some people might be like, oh, that's so privileged. It's nice that you can travel and do this and that, which yes, we want to identify that. Yes. And I will give you perfect examples of what changed me, even locally when I did some trips. Right? It does not have to cost money. It is about the intention behind it and the openness that we have to experiencing what is across the state, across the world, and right in our backyard.
So. Oh my gosh, I love that. Thank you. Like for bringing that full circle of like yes, we come from a place of absolute privilege and luxury, and that is not lost on me. But gosh, when we've gone, I mean, North Georgia, hello,
That's
going
what
in
I was
our
going to talk about.
going in our backyard and going on a hike where you see the waterfalls that you've never seen before, or you get to this summit and you're just like, holy shit, like this is in my backyard.
Right.
Yes.
I think it's more about coming into whatever situation you are traveling, however, with awe and openness, right? This curiosity, this openness of like, what am I going to find? What's possible? And it's that feeling that sometimes it's like, of course, when we're going to somewhere brand new, it's a total like shift, but also, it doesn't have to be brand new. I mean, again, it's going to be brand new to you as you explore it. But yeah.
That makes me think of like setting the intention of like when I go to the grocery store, like I'm gonna have, right, like you don't have to go to Fiji to be intentional about your experiences.
Like I will say some of the biggest, I will also, it's so funny because with mine, it was like, oh, I went to Fiji. Like Fiji did change me. I was young too. I was 19, I think, when I went, 18 or 19 when I went. So it was a long time ago. And it opened me up. And we always traveled. I would say probably the first place that really opened me up was Maine, and when I was 16 years old. Right.
Maine.
So much happened like just in my life during that time, and the like space that I'm so grateful that my mother, and I was saying this to Katie, that my mother instilled this love of travel and this awe within me, of just, going to visit new places and getting out of your own mind and getting out of your own like routine and into these other worlds. So it was that, and then it was Fiji, and it was Ireland, and it was Europe, Poland, going to visit my heritage.
I would say that's your motherland.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So it was wild. And I went with like 50 people, right? It was for a wedding. It was for my cousin's wedding. And like, I'm so grateful for that. But then, as we were talking, I was just like, the most magical that I refer to as well is when my boys and I went waterfall hunting in North Georgia. We would search for different waterfalls every single weekend, and that didn't cost. I mean, like it costed, the price of gas, but like it was free. Most of these places to hike were free. It's just so beautiful, and I think it reminds us of just like the beauty of the earth, the abundance of the earth, and the opportunities that are out there to explore, and how different it can be, but also how connected we are,
The same, right? Like I love that duality. Mm-hmm. I love that duality, parallel type process, juxtaposition, because that's one of my favorite words to use. Makes me sound so smart. Like I don't even know. Maybe it doesn't, but it makes me feel smart.
Whatever, it's yours. Indulge in it.
Is this relationship between like big and small, and again, like it always comes down to our perspective. Like the trip to the grocery store can be the same fucking trip to the grocery store that it always is, or you can choose to go with a fresh set of eyes and a fresh perspective. Mm-hmm. The trip out here to Colorado, I've been out west before. I've been skiing before. I've been to Montana and Wyoming and these really beautiful places before. I could show up and be like, yeah, it's just like all these other places I've been. Or I can look at it through the lens of, which is what I truly choose to do, is everything feels new and different. Mm. And there's a sense of awe, right? Like there's this awe. I'm looking at mountains. I've seen mountains before. But I'm looking at these mountains and I'm just reminded of like, there's something so spiritual about the landscape changes, right? Like there's these little things that are big things, right? Mountains are big. I don't know if you guys know this, but mountains are big. Let me mansplain that to you for a second. Mountains are actually big. The joy though that I choose to engage in, and then also like because I'm with Sloan and you were with your boys on the waterfall hunts, looking at it through their eyes. Sloan's like looking at snow because we don't get a lot of snow in Atlanta. He's throwing snowballs. There's a point where I was almost like, all right, enough with the snowballs. And then I was like, no, like keep them coming, buddy, because we don't get this a lot. So like enjoy all the little nuances that are big, that are small, that are new, that are old, that are just allowing. And I think that's what travel does for me, is it reminds me of like there's just a whole lot of different ways to like look at and experience the world.
Yeah. Well, and it's so funny. It's like so cliche of like, life's the journey, not a destination, right? Where it's like, but it truly is. It's everything that we're talking about is like this journey. It's this soul journey. It's this awakening. It's like the wonderment of everything. And even when I think about Fiji, it was so many of those things where it was like, we went to Fiji and Tonga, and we were gone for probably around a month. And it was,
That's incredible.
Staying on like this small island, a couple different small islands where it was like the research station and the locals, right? And we would put on our gear and we would go diving in the morning, and we dove all day long and take pictures. And what was beautiful about that was like, again, it was like, I am just this little piece, like, especially when you're diving in reefs amongst so much.
The massive depths of the ocean always transport me into a place of awe and like magic. Like,
yes.
Oh my gosh.
And like it was a reminder too of just like, you better be careful because you don't know. It's like one person actually ran out of oxygen and like we had a really bad scare, right? So it's like, be aware. I went down to like 90 feet, which I didn't even know. I was just swimming towards something.
Oh my gosh. Can we for a minute? I went down 90 feet and didn't even realize it. I was just swimming towards something. Girl. Like, is that not the like epicenter of like the analogy of life? I don't always know where I'm going. I don't always know how far I've gone, but I found myself freaking 90 feet deep because I was going after something.
Yes.
Something that caught me, something that like,
it was a shark, actually. I was swimming towards a shark. Even better. Like, because, and how many times is that not the analogy of our fucking lives? Right? Like, sometimes we're swimming toward like rainbow fish, and I'm trying to think of really like harmless. Like triggerfish, Picasso fish, like, you know.
Finding Nemo. We're clownfish. And then other times we're like kind of intrigued by the shark or the electric eel or the barracuda. I mean, that's totally your jam, right? Like that's you.
That 100%.
Is. And so how do we live like the most authentic and most present lives while also acknowledging the awe that sometimes pulls us in and draws us forward, and not being so damn concerned about, and this is kind of a double-sided thing of like, for you, like chasing the shark was the destination. It was like, I want to get to the shark. Like, I want to get to that shark. But then there's also like, the shark's not really the destination. It's the whole experience of like, and then you find yourself 90 feet in, and then you're like, whoa.
Right? Checking my air. I'm like,
because 90 feet underwater is no joke, right? Like, I'm scuba certified too. And like, that's no joke. So anyway, I love that story. Like, I love that analogy. I was 90 feet deep into the ocean.
I like that. I love it. And it's, you know, when you were talking about, it's just, you know, the, how do we stay authentic and in awe and wonderment and present? I think those two go hand in hand. Like, when we are authentic, when we are in wonderment, we are connected to, we recognize how small we are and how big we are. We recognize how individualized we are and how connected we are. And, the journey, whether it be physical travel or spiritual travel, whatever it is. Again, today we're talking about the actual physical journeys that we've taken that have changed our lives, but there's so much more, as you can see. And for all of you to even experience that or get curious about that, of what does travel do for you? Have you not traveled in a while? Is that something that's missing in your life? Is the awe and wonderment missing in your life? And how to come back to that? And possibly one way is to just get out and experience. That's a big thing, I think, is just experiencing life and all of the craziness of it, and the sharks and the barracudas and the clownfish and the triggerfish and all of the things. Fucking groupers, man. I was just thinking about all fucking groupers. I remember looking up and there was like just this huge shadow and it was this huge grouper right in front of me. I was just like, and that's what we want to instill. And I think that's why, like you said, there's that added element, right? When we bring our kids, because it is something that's so like new to them, and they have these in mindfulness. That's what it's actually going back to the child's mind, right? And to see it through the child's eyes, as if you've never seen it before. And we can do that in our backyard, or we can do it across country. And I think that we're seeing it more and more with, like, I know with the women that I speak with, of like, they're like, I want to travel, the RV life and traveling all over the world. And, it's just, again, it just adds this element of spirituality. I really think I really feel like that.
Totally agree. Well, and the spirituality piece for me always usually comes in the form of when I need to let go of control. And so when I think about like the travel experience and like flights being delayed or losing your luggage or, something not going the way that you want it to, like, again, like releasing control and just allowing yourself to be present, is that spiritual kind of experience for me. As soon as you were saying that, I was like, oh, giving up control, right? Like, is such a huge part of like not having to be in control of every single detail, because when we let go of that control, that's where, for me, the magic always happens.
Of course.
Absolutely. So it's just, it's all encompassing. So I don't know. I think like the takeaway for listeners that I'm hoping y'all get from this is maybe the travel itch. You get bit by the travel bug and you want to go travel and experience and explore, and maybe that means just in your own backyard, and but to allow yourself to be open to being present and having the full experience overcome you. Because that's when I think you and I would say that's when we experience the most spiritual experience, the most soul changing experiences. So
absolutely. Well, and it makes me think too, and I know we'll be wrapping up, but like it makes me think about like, when was there ever a time that the journey wasn't worth it, like the travel wasn't worth it? And it makes me think about the times where everything had to be like planned and everything, like, and it was so structured and there was like all this control and we have to do that, and people were mad and like it was just like, oh, it was so like just tight, and like you're looking forward to it, and then it's just like, this isn't worth it when you're out of it and you're trying to control every aspect of it. Don't get me wrong. It's great to, schedule in different plans and stuff like that, but always like aligning with like, ooh, does this feel good? Does this feel right? Does this, do we want to? I grew up in a family where it's like my mom, again, love her because she instilled that travel within me. And like, we had to have multiple activities throughout the day, and everything was planned, and she was stressed up to the point where we got there. She was stressed all day. It was filled with stress. And I just remember those vacations, and I was like, no, thank you. Again, love her. When we went to Costa Rica, like she planned all that. But there were spaces in between. It wasn't jam packed. It was fun. It was flowing. It was like so interesting. The way that she was able to let go in her like older experiences, right?
Aw, good for her.
So yeah. So just remembering too, like that comparison of like when we are in the present moment and in that flow state and letting go of control, how it's so different than like everything has to be planned and it has to be a certain way and we have this certain outcome. Like just be open to it. So that is our hope for you is, and we would love to hear about your travel stories and the things that you've learned and just like different soul experiences truly. That's what I think we're all longing for is this soul connection, and people are coming back to the earth, back to like just grounding in nature and grounding in this space of awe and wonderment. Which I love. I love it. You know, we're moving further away from commercialization and we're moving more and more into this space of getting back into our soul, and getting back in touch with that. So, please, please, please share all of your pictures, share all of your stories, all of your experiences. We would love to know like different places to go and visit, you know, and be able to celebrate that with you. So, so much awe and wonderment out there to be had. If you're open to it. And like I said, it doesn't have to be a big extravagant. Oftentimes it, honestly, you know, for me, I can't say oftentimes it isn't, but like, again, it runs the gamut of, you know, Fiji to my backyard, to be able to just experience that. So please share your experiences, share your thoughts, share your pictures, share your travels. We have, if you're looking for anybody to follow the 40-year awakening. She was one woman. Shauna is actually, she went through my program, and during my program, she sold her house. She started traveling, and she has been all over the world now. And
so inspirational, that woman.
Yes.
Definitely check her out.
Yes, absolutely. So we can't wait to see your pictures and your travels. We are so excited to be able to share that experience with you of your joy, your awe, and your wonderment. So until next time, we want to thank you all for being with us, and of course, sending so much light and love. Remember to stay curious, stay compassionate, and let your light and your legacy shine. Mwah. Mwah.